Welcome into the Skraby Show for Thursday, January 8th, 2026. We got a lot going on today. We have this arbitration stuff. We have the college football playoff happening right now. And Tarek Skubal and the Detroit Tigers. Apparently, I really didn't. I thought it was a bigger deal that Tarek Skubal fouled for something, and then the Tigers went back with something way lower. But apparently not. Apparently not. The Padres, though, agreed to contracts with all six of their arbitration eligible players ahead of today's deadline. So Jason Adam, Adrian Morejon, Gavin Sheets, JP Sears, Mason Miller, and Freddie Fermin are all now under contract for the 2026 season. And Luis Campusano as well, but his contract was given out in November, and so he's not counted as one of these. But AJ Preller has not had a player go to arbitration in his Padres GM career. He, since 2014, has not had anyone go to arbitration. And really, the reason that's a big deal, if you pay attention to what Corbin Burns said years ago, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, he went into arbitration with the Brewers. And he thought he was owed more money. And he obviously didn't get more money because the Brewers came back and said, here's the number that we're thinking. And it didn't make him happy because he thought he was worth more money. He thought he had, given some sweat equity to the Brewers organization. And he was very angry because he felt like the Brewers were doing some shady things. And if you remember with Josh Hader, it does sound like the Brewers were kind of doing shady things because, in a nutshell, the Brewers told Josh Hader, hey, we need you to pitch in the sixth inning. We need you to pitch wherever we need you to pitch. And you know what? We'll take care of you when it comes time for arbitration, comes time for a new contract. And then when they got into the arbitration hearings, the Brewers said, well, Josh, you didn't pitch enough at the end of the game. You didn't pitch enough high leverage innings. And Josh was like, well, hey, you told me that you needed me elsewhere and you're going to take care of me. So it is a dirty business sometimes. And that's not just the only, issue out there, but this is why AJ Preller is liked by a lot of people because AJ doesn't he doesn't send people to arbitration, and he gives them what they feel they're worth and he feels they're worth, and so they're on the same page, and I like that. I think that's a pretty darn good darn good relationship to have with players. And when players come to the team and they're in arbitration, they kind of know that AJ Preller's not going to try and screw them over. So I think AJ Preller not having any players go to arbitration since 2014 is a really good sign. And not even a sign. It's a really good it's a feel good thing for players when they want to come play for the Padres if they are in that arbitration range. So, it's roster news, I guess. We don't have to worry about those. And then Tony made a good point earlier. We would have known if they weren't going to be on the team if they were non-tendered earlier or later last year. But hey, I'll take it. These guys are under contract, and I am happy about that. I wanted to say also, happy birthday to 97.3 The Fan's biggest fan for at least 2025. Rod, if you've heard his name on the chat or on the show or on the chat, Rod, it's his birthday today. It's also, I believe, our guy KG's birthday today. So congratulations on having a birthday, and happy birthday to both of you. Appreciate everything you do for our station. Rod is someone who gave me a Christmas gift, and I thought that was really amazing. So that's kind of the way Rod is. He's just a great guy. Same with you, KG. But you didn't give me a gift, so I can't talk you up. All right, let's go and talk real quick about the best free agent DH. I was asked last night who would be the best free agent DH for the Padres, and I looked through a lot of players. I scrolled and I scrolled and I looked, And one that we talked about on the show today that I found, I think it would be very, very beneficial for the Padres to bring him in, even at the price, but you can get him 1 year, 20 something million dollars. Maybe that works within the Padres uh, yeah, budgetary concerns, but that's Eugenio Suarez. And we during the Big Five, I said he's projected 4 years, 100 million, 2 years, 45 million, or a 1 year deal. But I really like that. And I know that he strikes out a lot. And I know that he is doesn't have the highest batting average in the world. But he hit 49 home runs last year. And if you're going to bring in a guy who can hit 40 plus home runs as the DH, and also he could spell Manny at third base, which isn't the worst thing in the world, I would really love to see that happen. And I know that's kind of a easy name brand pick, but you know what you're going to get with Suarez. You know what you're going to get with him. He's going to hit for power. He's going to strike out a lot, and he's going to have a low batting average. But we dealt with low batting averages last year, but we just couldn't handle the zero power that also came with the low batting averages last year. Baseball Reference has him projected to hit 30 home runs this season, and he would hit 236, which and strike out 169 times. But in his career, for the most part, he's hitting 30 home runs since 2021, 31, 31, 22, 30, 49. That's a lot of home runs. He's hit 49 home runs twice. I would love to bring him in. I would. Can I handle the strikeouts? Yeah, I could probably handle the strikeouts as long as he's hitting 49 home runs. I could definitely handle the strikeout. As long as he's hitting 49 home runs, though, because I don't know that I want a guy who's going to punch out. What did they put down? 169 strikeouts they're projecting for him. That would be less than he did last year. But anyway, I can handle the strikeouts if you're going to hit a bunch of home runs. But he is going to cost. He is going to cost, and I know the Padres are kind of under that sort of budgetary restriction because of what's going on and the team exploring a sale and all that stuff. So I think it's maybe a long shot that Eugenio Suarez would end up in a Padres uniform, but at the same time, I wouldn't hate it whatsoever. Would not hate it at all because I want to see home runs. I do. All right. You can watch the show if you want on YouTube. Just search 97.3 The Fan, or you can search at The Skraby Show, and that will bring you to my YouTube. You can also watch on Facebook, 97.3 The Fan, and X, 97.3 The Fan SD. Miami went down and scored again. So it's under 2 minutes to go. It's 123 or 124 to go in the first half. Miami leads Ole Miss 17-10. I did see Kyron Lacey, and since I can't hear what's being said on the broadcast, I did see Kyron Lacey, the Ole Miss running back who had a massive touchdown earlier in the game. I did see him with some medical personnel on the sideline, so I'm not really sure if he's out or if he is, just getting a breather. But it's 4th and 2 for Ole Miss, and this game so far has been very heavy Miami. They've been very good, but Ole Miss has hung in there. So Ole Miss has to get it going in gear, because I want to see Lane Kiffin kind of be a little angry that Ole Miss is still in the college football playoff and Ole Miss is in the championship game. I want to see that happen. That would be fun. Jimbo Fisher, he really did. If you missed it earlier, he really did have a pretty good take on Lane Kiffin. Now, I hate piling on Lane Kiffin because I know Chris does it enough. But Jimbo Fisher also, he says it in the clip, he's a guy who has left schools before and things like that. So he's not saying that he's a saint. But here's what Jimbo Fisher said on the ACC network about Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss and the treatment of the Ole Miss players.
Your head over there. This is crazy, no?
No, it's selfish. That's what it is. It's stupid. And because here's why I say that. He wanted to coach and thought he didn't get his way. So everybody get on the plane with me. You don't have a job. All right? And he makes them all go. Then he gets down there and takes a PR hit because it looks bad that you really don't care about the kids. Then he says, okay, you can go back. But here's where he screwed up.
He thought they were going to lose.
He thought they were going to lose to Georgia.
Exactly.
And the portal thing was all over with, and it was going to be all over with. And he said, oh, I'll look like a hero. Yeah. Now he's got egg on his face because the real lane came back out. You know what I'm saying? And if those guys were allowed to coach the first game, they should be allowed to coach it because those kids are doing something that you get one time in your life to ever do.
Literally.
That team and those guys one time. And as a coach, listen, I know I've left the job. I get that. But if you took them on and said they're never coming back, that's fine. You set the rules of the game. You don't change the rules in the middle of the game. And as a coach, it's hurting the kids and it pisses me off.
There you go. Jimbo Fisher, former Texas A&M coach, former Florida State coach. And he said something during that I didn't catch the first time, but he said the real Lane Kiffin came out. And that is, like, I've said this on the Gwen and Chris show, but I don't understand why. I've always had this question in my head, and I don't understand why people who are not, I don't really want to call Lane Kiffin a bad person because I don't know him, but from what I'm reading and all the things people say about him, I don't understand why people would want to deal with that. They just got rid of Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly was labeled as one of the most difficult head coaches to work with in college football, and Lane Kiffin just steps right in. I think LSU thinks that if they just throw a bunch of money at the problem, that it's going to correct itself. But I don't think that's how it's going to work. I don't think that you can just throw a bunch of money at this problem. Now, maybe in college football, it could work because other teams can't do the same thing. But I don't know that Lane Kiffin is going to have the national championship success in his first season. I don't think. But is LSU expecting that? I kind of think they are. But anyway, I do want to see Ole Miss win because they have faced a pretty tough challenge here. And being a team without a coach and all the circus that surrounded it for as long as it has, they're hanging in there right now in the Fiesta Bowl. So good for them. Miami still up 17-10. All right, when we get back here on the Skraby Show, I wanted to talk a little bit about what Rob Manfred said earlier today on WFAN. He had some ideas for baseball. I want to share those ideas with you, and we'll discuss when we get back here shortly. 97.3 The Fan.
Jack, when you
with the new Skraby Show schedule here in the year of 2026, this will be my last show of the week. So I'm going to be doing Monday through Thursday, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. The only difference is next week, Monday has Monday Night Football, so I won't be doing Monday. And then the week after is Martin Luther King Jr. Day on Monday, so we won't be doing that as well. But otherwise, I'll be doing 4 a week. And I've heard some people say, good for you, Skraby, trying to keep your mental health in check. Because last year I was exhausted by the time the season started. But that is not going to be the case this year. That will not be the case. Okay, Rob Manfred was on the Craig Carton Show on WFAN, sister station WFAN, and they talked about a lot. Now, when I first saw the article from Evan Drelich, the title of the article is MLB split season and in-season tournament have been discussed, Rob Manfred says. Now, I realize that this is not technically clickbait because they do give you the information in the story, but this is an enticing headline to click because I really was thinking, hey, here we go. They're going to do an in-season tournament, and it's going to be ridiculous. But the more I read the article, it doesn't really sound like it's that serious of a conversation. Here's what he said on WFAN. He said, we've talked about split seasons. We've talked about in-season tournaments. We do understand that 162 games is a long pull. I think the difficulty to accomplish those sort of in-season events, you almost inevitably start talking about fewer regular season games. It is a much more complicated thing in our sport than it is in other sports because all our season-long records, you're playing around with something that people care a lot about, which I think is really important to talk about at the end. Because of all of our season-long records, you're playing around with something that people really care a lot about. Like the NFL, they don't care about the records. It's clear. When they went to they've gone from a 14-game season to a 16-game season to a 17-game season. They're trying to get into an 18-game season. But now, Myles Garrett is the sack champion with 23 sacks, even though he played 17 games. So, and there's other records that have been broken in 17 games. So the NFL is just like, hey, we're just going to start with new records. We're, basically we're going to allow all the old records to be broken by having 17-game season, and then we'll be back on track. But I do think in baseball, it's much more important to try and keep the stats and the records and all of that in a similar position because I do care about baseball numbers and baseball stats. I do care. I think it's fun to go back and look at Babe Ruth and see what he did compared to, Aaron Judge or Cal Raleigh to Johnny Bench or something like that. And it's one of the few sports where you can look back and for the most part, the game has been the same. So the stats are not as different as other sports because in football, bigger, faster, stronger. Basketball, taller, all of that. But in baseball, yes, those guys are bigger, faster, stronger as well. But at the same time, it's still the same game. It hasn't changed too much in football. It used to be you run the ball, you run the ball, you run the ball. Now everybody passes the ball. Game has changed. I guess there's certain things in baseball, but for the most part, the stats are the stats. And I think that is very important that Rob Manfred is keeping that in mind. Now, the one thing I do not care about is this in-season tournament. Do not care about in-season events. Do not care about the in-season tournament. Please do not do this. Do not do this. I think this would be stupid. And the reason I think it would be stupid is because it's basically just directly copying the NBA. Come up with your own idea. You also already have a World Baseball Classic, which is tournament play. So I don't think you need another in-season tournament. And I don't really think that this is the best idea for baseball. That would be hard. Logistics would be hard of that. It would be hard because in basketball, NBA teams play, I guess they could play back-to-back days, but It's either a 2-day rest or 3-day rest. Baseball, you're every day. So how are you going to get people to different places that need to go for the in-season tournament? And that's about as much as I'm going to spend on the in-season tournament because I don't ever think it's going to happen. It's like the golden, what was it? The golden at bat that Rob Manfred threw out there, which is what was it? Oh, you could pick any hitter at a certain point in the game from your lineup or from your bench and use them even if they're out of order. So they were thinking the golden at bat. Like, it's kind of crazy. But in-season tournament is, to me, kind of just as crazy. Now, he did talk about some other things Rob Manfred did, and here is where I think he's on the right track. I think Rob Manfred, in this case, is thinking along the lines of what us fans are thinking, and it's about a free agency deadline because we know that we could have this free agency open forever and no one can get signed. But if you had a deadline, kind of like a transfer portal deadline or something, if you had a deadline, there would be much more action. There would be money being spent on players. There would be a lot more clarity on things if they had a deadline. So here's what Rob Manfred said about a possible free agency deadline.
The proposal really was not about trying to alter the terms of deals one direction or another. I'm kind of a believer in you have a deadline, you're going to make the same deal, give or take,
Right.
if you string it out. I think the reason I was interested in, I think that like from the 1st of December to the 20th, if we had a period in there when all that free agency activity went on, it's a great marketing opportunity for the game at a point in the calendar when, you're not quite in the NFL playoffs, the NBA is still kind of early. And, it's a great chance to kind of own some off-season weeks, right, which is crucial to selling season tickets. So that's why I was interested.
Do you look? I'm going to ask you a question. I know it's hard for you to answer.
And there you go. Rob Manfred says something that I think is also very important because it tells me that he obviously he understands baseball and all that, but he's right. If they did a December 1st through December 20th free agency deadline, baseball would be the talk. Baseball would be the talk of sports because he said it. NFL's not in the playoffs yet. NBA's just starting getting going. Hockey is not much of a competition. If they were to do this, there would be lots of reasons to talk about baseball. But right now with baseball and no free agency deadline, it's free agent here, then 9 days later, free agent there. And it's hard to build momentum for people to talk about baseball in that way in the off season. So I think that's actually, I really like what Rob Manfred said there. And I don't really know why players would have a problem with this. I think it would force teams to sign players, and then those players would know that they have a home for the upcoming year. I think that would be a good thing. The free agency deadline would be a good thing. Because let's face it, they do need marketing. They do need marketing opportunities. They do need things in the off season that people can point to. The winter meetings is there, yeah. The GM meetings are there, yeah. But those aren't as, they are newsworthy, but not in the way that we would talk about them, that other shows would talk about them around the country. And so I think the free agency deadline would be good. You need something to talk about. Now, here's another thing that Craig Carton asked Rob Manfred about, and I think we're all interested about this. But Rob Manfred addresses the concern over a potential work stoppage in 2027.
I came inside at baseball in 1998. We have always played through 5 or 6 rounds of bargaining. We have always played 162 games. Okay. All I can tell you is that when I came, my goal was to make sure that every time we bargained, we played 162. And that's my goal this time around. We haven't even started the process. And, candid conversation about, we see things that need to be addressed. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make this proposal or that proposal. I think we have to wait and see how things unfold at the table. We got lots and lots of time to work on it. And the most important thing for fans is certainly my goal to make sure that we played 162 games next year.
That is shocking, because I heard that clip before the show, and it still shocked me. Said they haven't even started talking yet. It's a year away. And Chris said this last week. What have they been doing? They know this deadline is coming. Why have they not been laying groundwork? Why have they not been having conversations to see how far apart they are? If they haven't even started the process yet, I have a bad feeling. Not that like a season's going to be canceled or something, but I just do not see the players wanting a salary cap, and I just don't see the owners wanting to continue on the way they are with the way the pay structure is set up. And that could get dicey. Really, really dicey. So hopefully Rob Manfred, he said it. It's kind of like AJ Preller not sending any players to arbitration. Rob Manfred is not going to lose games due to a bargaining agreement. Blowfish says teams would end up colluding and abusing it to drive down player prices. And we're talking about the free agent signing period. I'm sure they would, because that's what all teams do. But you got to make rules. You got to make rules. You have to protect the players in this. You cannot let teams collude. Baseball does not have enough rules in that way. It's kind of like the U.S. government. A lot of stuff is state decisions instead of federal decisions. In baseball, it's a lot of team decisions rather than Major League Baseball decisions. But to know that they haven't even started yet is shocking to me a little bit, but it probably shouldn't be shocking. Here's Rob Manfred talking, last clip. Here's Rob Manfred talking on Craig Carton's show on WFAN, his vision for expansion and realignment.
I would like to expand. I think 32 would be good for us. And, fundamentally, it's a lot of cities like to have Major League Baseball. When people want your product, you ought to try to, find a way to sell it to them. It's kind of basic. Number one. Number two, it does a ton of for us from a format perspective. You would realign. You would do it along geographic lines, which could alleviate a ton of the travel burden that's on players. Remember, we ask our players 162 times in 186 days. So most of the play between 162 and 186 travel, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, so you can eliminate a lot of that travel, make it less burdensome, which would be a great thing in terms of player health and safety. And if you play geographically, we get in a postseason, we have those 4 window days that I love, right? You get 4 baseball games in a day. It's awesome. But when you think about the fans in the individual markets, you always end up with, because of the way we're set up, you get Boston versus Anaheim in one of the early rounds. So you're either going to be too late for the fans in Boston or too early. So if you realign geographically, you would look more like other sports where you play up east into the World Series and west into the World Series. And that 10 o'clock game on the West Coast that sometimes is a problem for us becomes a primetime game on the West Coast for the two teams that are playing. So there's a lot of advantages to it. I think if you did it, you'd probably be 8-4s, right? Okay. And I think you would try to keep.
All right. He goes on to say, because he goes on a little bit longer in this clip, but he goes on to say that if a team is in the same market, they won't be in the same division. So the Yankees and Mets will still be able to play each other, or league, I'm sorry. They will be in separate leagues. So the Yankees and the Mets will still be able to match up in the World Series, the Angels and the Dodgers, I almost said Giants and the A's, but that's not true anymore. The White Sox and the Cubs, they would be in separate leagues, and so they wouldn't do that. But the travel thing, didn't they just get themselves into this trouble? Didn't they just do this to themselves? They did the whole, we need to play every single team, and so we're going to take away division games, and we're going to add travel. So what's he complaining about? He's the one who, his administration is the one who did this. They're the one who caused all the travel, so I don't understand why all of a sudden travel is such a big deal, but maybe the players have pushed back a lot, which I don't blame them. I do not blame them for pushing back. Knowing what Tony's schedule's like during the season and how much he's traveling throughout the night and being a West Coast team coming from an East Coast, Sunday night baseball game, you're getting done at 11 p.m. and you're getting in the air at 1 and you're making some time up on the way home, but you're still getting in late. It's just the travel is a problem, but this is what you get when you tell teams that they're going to have to play every team in baseball. So if they're going to realign, I really hope that they keep the Padres and the Dodgers and the Giants and maybe even the Diamondbacks in the same division. But I don't know that they will. That would make sense to me. 3 California teams and 1 Arizona team. That's not a lot of flying. So there, just solved it for you, Mr. Manfred. Just solved it for you. All right. That's it for Rob Manfred on WFAN. Tony and I will probably talk about that a little tomorrow because we didn't get a chance to listen to him earlier, so we wanted to make sure we were able to listen and think about things. But when we get back here on the Skraby Show, we are going to go into an NFL playoff preview. I'm going to talk about the games that are happening over this weekend. We still have the Daily Gripe. Halftime at the college football playoff game. Believe Miami is still leading 17-10 over Ole Miss. Back shortly, 97.3 The Fan. All guests on 97.3 The Fan, join us on the David P. Shapiro Fan Hotline. David P. Shapiro, criminal defense attorneys helping good people regain control of their future when charged with a crime. Since 2010, visit davidpshapirolaw.com. Matt Skraby here with you. Final segment of the week for the Skraby Show here on 97.3 The Fan. Tony and I are going to be in tomorrow because Chris is traveling to Utah with the Aztecs women's team, so you'll get us. We have all the shows on the station tomorrow, so nothing's changing for that. I actually made a mistake. I did not see Ole Miss kick the field goal at the end of the half, so Ole Miss is trailing Miami 17-13 in the college football playoff at halftime. So if anything crazy happens in the next 13 minutes, I will let you know. But here we go into, I guess I shouldn't, I'll just play whatever. It's like we use this for Gwen Chris, but who cares? Actually, you know where I'm going to go? Hold on 1 second. Let me get a different song because I'm tired of hearing that song today. I need to go find it, though. I don't know exactly where it is on this wall. We call it a wall. And I still... Oh, here it is. Here it is. Let's see. No, that's not it either. Oh, well, I messed that up. Okay, well, this is just a disaster right now because I can't figure out which one is the right one. But we are going into playoff season, which is always kind of sad for me. As a kid, I was devastated when the football season ended. Growing up, going to all the games with my grandpa, just loving the NFL as a kid, I was devastated when the season is over. Now I'm like, all right, season's over, and then before I know it, the season's back. But I remember all that waiting for football to come back around was difficult for me. But I think the playoffs, especially this weekend's playoffs, are some of the best sporting events of the year because you get crazy games, you get crazy results, and you usually have the most to talk about after the first weekend of playoffs. So I think that the Rams we're just going to go in order of when they're playing because I think that's an easy way to go through it. But the Rams and the Panthers. Now, I personally think, and you heard my picks earlier, I personally think the Rams might have the best offense and a good enough defense to win a Super Bowl, but the Rams have not played well lately. And whether I like it or not, though, Sean McVay is a really good coach, and he's going to have them ready. I don't see them. They went to Carolina in December. The Rams lost to the Panthers. I can't see them going back to Carolina and losing 2 to the Panthers this year. So I don't think the Rams, it may be a close game, but the Rams pull away at the end type of thing. All I know is I was hoping and praying that somehow the 49ers got matched up with the Panthers because although the Panthers, they've looked good at points this year, they're a playoff team, they're not playing their best football right now. So I'm going to pick the Rams to win 31-17. And the reason I'm picking scores is because Chris absolutely hates it when people pick scores. So Rams win 31-17. Next game Saturday night, Packers at the Bears. This is an interesting game because I have seen Caleb Williams go from a question mark as to whether he'll handle the NFL okay to a guy who could potentially win a playoff game this weekend. And the Bears could play really well on offense. They could score. They could keep up with other teams. They can run the ball like crazy. And we all know when you can run the ball like crazy, that means you can also pass the ball like crazy. But it seems like right now everything is coming up Bears, except for they lost the Lions on Sunday. The one question I have, though, is how Caleb Williams plays in his first playoff game. There is a ton of pressure on him. Bears fans have been waiting for a team like this for a while. So they're not going to let him get off the hook easy if he doesn't play well. And he's a number 2 seed at home against the mortal enemy, the Packers. So the question to me is, will he come through or will he feel the pressure? Personally, he seems like a guy that will come through. And maybe in his first playoff appearance, I could see a situation where he lets his nerves get to him, but I don't think that's going to happen on Saturday night. The Packers, on the other hand, they do have a quarterback with playoff experience in Jordan Love. They have the pieces on offense to make it happen. But I do think losing Micah Parsons is going to doom this team. I feel like all of their energy, all of the good vibes that they had going was, taken away when Micah Parsons tore his ACL and went out for the year. I think the Packers are running on fumes and they're limping into the playoffs a little bit. At one point, it looked like the Packers were the best team in football, but that was a long time ago. I'm going to say this was a little bit closer just because of a division familiarity. So I'm going to say that the Bears win 27-21. Now, Bills at Jaguars Sunday morning. This, and I wrote this in caps, this is the year Josh Allen has the best chance to win the Super Bowl of his career so far. Except for the Empire. I didn't write that. There is no Lamar Jackson, no Patrick Mahomes. This is the year it has to happen for him. I do think there are just a few players that could win a game on their own, and Josh Allen is one of them. Obviously, he can't do it without his teammates and all that, but if there was a guy who needed to have a performance to will a team to a victory, Josh Allen is that guy. But then there's the other Josh Allen too. The Josh Allen that tries too much, that tries to be the hero, and ends up hurting his team. He hasn't done it as much lately, but I did see maybe even this last weekend or 2 weekends ago, it was one of those where he ran backwards. He was trying to get away from a defender, and then he had to turn around the other way and run the other way, and he couldn't get the ball, throw the ball away, and he lost like 20 yards. If that version of Josh Allen shows up, the one that scrambles for everything and runs in circles, Bills are going to lose this game. Jaguars, though, I do think they're good. I said it on Monday. Did I apologize to everybody on Monday? I either Monday or Tuesday, but I apologize to the Jaguars and Liam Cohen because I needed to see them prove it to me that they were good, and they are good. Trevor Lawrence is playing really, really, really well. The defense is nasty, and I think this might be one of the best weapons for any team in the playoffs, but that is that they have a kicker, Cam Little, that can make field goals on a regular basis over 60 yards. I wouldn't even be surprised one day if he kicked a 70-yard field goal because that is how good he is. And that's a weapon. Knowing that you're in field goal range when you cross or at least get close to midfield, it changes the way you do everything. And so I think that's a big deal. I do. I think the Jaguars are going to be at home. I think the Bills have struggled. And so I'm going to go with the Jaguars here. And I'm going to go with it being a little bit of a lopsided game. I'm going to go with it 28-10 Jaguars. I don't know why I feel that way. I just feel like things are stacked against the Bills. So 28-10. Next game, 49ers and Eagles. Obviously, this is the one I'm most excited for and also most terrified for. This was the worst possible matchup I could have ever imagined for the 49ers in the first round of the playoffs. I mean, they had their chance to miss this matchup. All they needed to do was beat the Seahawks on Sunday night or Saturday night last week, and they would have had the number one seed to bye, and they wouldn't have had to play the Eagles in the first round. But this is not a great matchup for the 49ers. Trent Williams has to play for them to have a chance to win. I even saw Lane Johnson might be coming back or is coming back for the Eagles, and so we get to watch Lane Johnson false start on every single play over the weekend. But the Eagles have not looked great this year at times, and I think they are kind of finding it right now, but they also just won a Super Bowl. I know that in the past I've seen teams that win Super Bowls not be able to get back to the Super Bowl the next year, and that happens more often than not. The Chiefs and the Patriots of the last 30 years, that's not typical for them to just continue to go to the Super Bowl every year. And so if the 49ers have a chance, they have to rely heavily on Christian McCaffrey. There can be no drives where he doesn't get the ball. He has to get the ball not every single play, but he has to get the ball a lot because that's the only way I see them keeping up with the Eagles. With the defense the 49ers have right now, they have no linebackers. It's just brutal. It's just brutal. But I am going to pick I'm going to pick my team. I'm going to pick my team. Saquon Barkley also scares me. Dallas Goedert might be out, but he, is scary as well. You got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. So if the 49ers win this game, it's going to be a close score. I'm going to say 24-21, 49ers beat the Eagles. I need to move along. Wow. Chargers, Patriots, real quick on this. Patriots at home. Drake May, rookie playoff quarterback. Chargers on the other side. Jim Harbaugh knows how to prepare his team for the playoffs. Justin Herbert has to have a great game in the playoffs to avoid criticism. And I have to stay with the Chargers beating the Patriots because I've given the Patriots such a hard time throughout the year, so I can't pick them to win. But I'm going to pick the Chargers to win 2017. And finally, Steelers and Texans. This one is interesting because obviously Aaron Rodgers is back in the playoffs. Oh my gosh.
What's annoying?
Sorry about that.
Today?
I just played my daily grab. I'm not even going to be able to do the daily grab at this point because I got so much happening and I went way too long. Texans and the Steelers. The Aaron Rodgers, I think he's going to be able to play well in the playoffs. They're at home Monday night. They haven't lost. The Steelers haven't lost a Monday night game in like 30 years or something like that. Monday night game at home, I should say, in like 30 years. Texans have an amazing defense, though, and that will win them the game if they do. CJ Stroud, I think he throws 2 interceptions, and I think the Texans lose the game. The Steelers are going to win this game. Originally, I was going to say 24-21, but I'm going to make up some random score. I'm going to say the Steelers win the game 18-9. That would be a really weird score. 18-9. Wow, look at me going right up into it. The daily gripe actually should be the fact that I start things when I don't mean to start them. Brandon Wilson said, break the rules. We'd rather hear your gripe. The gripe. Let's see. Do I have... Okay. I have a gripe. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow morning. It's a video doctor's appointment. But they want me to check in at 8 a.m. for an 8:30 appointment. Why am I going to sit on hold on a video camera at home for 30 minutes? My appointment's at 8:30. Come on! That's my daily gripe. I don't want to have to wait around on camera for 30 minutes waiting for the doctor. My appointment, sir, was scheduled for 8:30. There you go. All right, Tony and I back tomorrow. Bennett Woods, 6 a.m. Braden Sprennett, Frank Marchese, 10 a.m. Talk to you all tomorrow. Have a good night.
Aztecs basketball is back, and the